People who have ordered a bar Safeword drink to get out of a bad situation. What was your date like and how did the staff help? Had a creeper at a hotel bar who wouldn't leave me alone despite my best efforts to ignore him. I even asked him politely and not so politely to leave me alone. He actually kept trying to touch me and told me that I was going to go to his room with him. He had a strange angry edge too. So I gave the bartender a help me look and said to him something like, I need to talk to you about that thing with my tab. Remember, and asked if could do it when the bar closed, which was like 5 minutes later. He looked at me and said, give me a minute, made a phone call and then said, so, they can help you at the front desk. Meanwhile, creeper is literally not leaving me alone, is still trying to actually hang on me and keeps talking. So I start to leave and creeper is trying to kiss me and pull me close, but I tell him I have business at the front desk and walk to the front desk. About 3 employees were there and I said the bartender said you could help me with my tab, and one of the employees says, oh, I need you to come here with me to fix that. And she says to the guy, you need to stay here. This is personal business. The employee, a woman, and I start to walk away and of course the creeper followed us. She actually walked me to a staff elevator and he tried to get on with us. She told him get out of here and leave us alone as a male hotel employee came up to him just then and the elevator door shut. The employee walked me literally to my room door and stayed until I had it locked on the other side. I have had, and still occasionally do have, guys hit on me but never anything like this incident. I actually wrote a long email to the hotel corporate office and the actual hotel about the bartender and 2 employees because they helped me in what I would say was above and beyond. The guy really frightened me. I have been as brand loyal as possible to the hotel chain ever since. This strange much older guy wouldn't stop talking to me. I was in my mid-20s. I was shy so I tried to act polite towards him but I was visibly upset. A female bartender came up and asked if this guy was bothering me. I nervously chuckled, yeah, kinda, and gave her a look. The bartender laughed and said, leave the girl alone, or something similar to him in a joking voice, then walked away. The man said I was rude and walked away, only to come back and bother me a few more times. A couple days later, a friend who frequents that bar said the bartender told him my story. She said I hurt the older guy's feelings and the bartender didn't appreciate it because he's kind of kooky but a regular and means no harm. I don't go to that bar anymore. What a condescending bee. Just because she works there and has experienced him before. I don't know what would go through her head to think that someone who has never met him would get the same vibe, especially when she knows he's kooky. Another time I was in a bar in the States. I had been a regular here for a little bit and I knew the bar staff. A new guy comes in and starts hitting on the bartender. At first she seems to just play along with it so I ignore it. Not my business. Time goes by. He's starting to leave. He starts getting more and more aggressive on hints at her. He wants her number, but she's giving him excuses like my phone is broke right now, and even taller she says, look enough no. At this point I am paying attention, and he says she's just shy and she knows she would like it. She gets upset. She asks him to leave. I tell him he should leave. He ignores me and still trying to smooth things over with her. Manager comes, who is also a woman, and tells him he needs to leave. I tell him he needs to leave now. By this point there was a group of 3 construction guys who had gotten him up and come on over to the bar, and he was told he needs pay and leave right now or we the guys will take care of him ourselves. At this point he decides to pay and leave. Manager gave us all a round of free drinks. Guy came in again the next day. When the owner was there, the owner called the police and trespassed him. Not a safe word per se, but my mom and a friend went to a bar and a guy mugged her friend outside. She entered with her purse messed up and holding a shoe, and their male friend called over to the owner. He called out something like woman down and a bunch of men stood and went outside to search for this guy. Turns out a few years prior a woman there got violated. After that the owner established a code phrase with the regulars for if a woman gets attacked. The place looks like a dive bar at first glance, but the owner was a serious gentleman and didn't even allow cursing in there. After that the owner established a code phrase with the regulars for if a woman gets attacked. All I can picture is a bunch of drunk barflies pouring out of a bar ready to do battle. Like some wacky version of that first scene in Gangs of New York. Had a bar call 911 Once after they bounced a guy who was creeping out a woman. He stood outside the bar and flat out said he was waiting for her until she came out, which he did. He started following her and told people they were together. I literally had to stand with this moron while this poor girl and her friends got into the car, and dipshit tried to stand really close so he could get the address. I told the driver her address, but gave the address of the jail, which most taxis know, and he seemed to get the hint. Guy tried to complain later that we had unlawfully detained him just so he couldn't get the girl's number and address. I mean, yeah, basically that's what we did. Move along. That was smart thinking to give the wrong address so they could give the correct one once it was safe. I've actually been used to escape by a random before. Was at a local bar with a bunch of friends and out of nowhere girl walks over, sits on my lap and between a teeth clenched smile just said pretend to know me. I laughed and loudly said hey you, where'd you wander off to? Thankfully my friends picked up on it because inside of 10 seconds a few of my female friends were chatting with her and standing between her and the guy. She fled. I asked her after what about me made her know I was a safe person to turn to and she said because you're here with a bunch of women. Total honesty. Thought you were gay, lol. I'm a bouncer in a nightclub. No drink Safewords but we actively keep an eye out for situations which don't look above the radar. If a girl's leaving with a guy and she looks too intoxicated to stand, I'll take her aside and ask what his name is and how she knows him. If she's obviously been drugged, I'll call the police. If she's scared or needs help getting away from a bad situation, I'll call her a cab and walk her to it. I'll also say to the bloke that I need to see some ID because his entry stamp isn't the right one. As soon as I see it, I'll take a photo, pass it on to the police and ban him for life from our club. We've built up a reputation as the safest nightclub in our area, which draws both crowds, especially girls. It's massively helped our business being so focused on safety. In 2012 I was at a nude beach in Toronto. A random 60-year-old man approached me. At that time I was a shy 18-year-old, and he simply would not leave. He talked on and on about how I could come live with him at his house and be his girlfriend, all the while not letting me get a word in edgewise. To escape this situation I decided to call the day a loss and leave even though I'd only just arrived. As I walked back to the ferry he emerged from the trees and followed me back to the mainland. He was still planning out our lives together and offered to buy us lunch at a local bar chain. Not wanting to lure the scary dude back to my apartment, I agreed in the hopes of stalling and figuring out a plan. We sat down at a table by the door and I said I had to go to the bathroom, and as I passed the bar I gave the bartender, a 20-something female, the 411 on this creepy dude situation. I asked if there was a back door somewhere I could slip out of and leave without him noticing. She replied that there was one through the kitchen but it was for staff only and she couldn't help me. I felt so betrayed that another female wouldn't intervene at all and I cried a little bit in the bathroom. I was so young, new to the city and genuinely scared. I didn't even have a phone back then. I was so broke. When I got back to the table the food came. I ate 2 bites and when he called for the check as he waited for the bill I said well this was, and ran into the street. I figured he wouldn't ditch on the check to follow me, but I still took some crazy side treks before getting on the subway. That sounds awful. The bartender definitely should have helped somehow, or at the very least gotten the manager involved if she couldn't handle it. I had to use it when on a date off Tinder. We met up and he had already got me a drink, just sat there, short of something clear, and then said to me that I should do it, then he would take me somewhere better for more fun. I wasn't comfortable so excused myself to the bathroom and saw a poster that said about ask for Angela if you're uncomfortable. Went to the bar and asked for Angela and immediately this guy was playing along saying oh yeah she's working in kitchen tonight. He got me a taxi and walked me out the back door and into the taxi to make sure I got there without any hassle. I never saw the guy again. We met up and he had already got me a drink, just sat there, short of something clear, and then said to me that I should do it, then he would take me somewhere better for more fun. Getting some serious negative vibes from that. Whoa, this blew up. I went out on my own one night and was having a few drinks at a local pub. I had just moved to the area so didn't really know anyone. A guy sat down next to me and was chatting. At first his was just casual but he eventually became really tipsy-handsy. Then the guy actually kissed me just out of the blue and I told him I was not okay with it. He said I was leading him on, which was not the case at all. He got angry and stormed off to the washroom. I was feeling really uncomfortable and unsafe. I didn't know my new neighborhood yet. The bartender saw that I was feeling off right away. He didn't even know me but could tell. He asked if I wanted to be shown out the back door and if they could put me in a cab home so that I could go without the guy following me. They even paid and apologized that I felt unsafe in their bar. I was totally blown away. I would totally go back there and feel completely taken care of. That's great. Glad they got you out of there. What honest and kind folks to be so vigilant and gracious to you. This is a relatively new thing, but us girls have been doing some form of it for a long time. Back when I was a bartender, I noticed a girl stumble into the pool table. She was crying and clearly very intoxicated. I went over to ask if she was okay, and some guy I hadn't seen her with all night jumps up and says, "I'm her boyfriend. I've got her." "No the frick you do not. We got her to calm down and give us her phone to call her roommate so someone safe could take her home. It sucks that it's necessary, but I'll always love my boss from that bar because he threw that creep out. Physically, we saw her again. She didn't have a boyfriend or remember that night." Oh, frick. That's horrifying. Working as a bartender and bouncer for the past couple years, I usually just try to watch for body language of people that are in the bar. If it looks like someone needs a quick escape, I'll approach and pretend I'm an old friend that hasn't seen them in a while. If they actually don't need help, I can excuse myself by saying they look like a friend. Either that, or I'll try to position myself behind the questionable party and give a thumbs up and cocked eyebrow as a sort of "you good." As a previous patron of bars, thank you so much. You've done so much good already. 3. My university town had the highest incidence of pretzel for 5 years in a row. The school and community took it really seriously and implemented procedures all over the place. I asked my friend, who was a bouncer at my favorite bar club, what happens when a girl orders the drink. He said it changes week to week in the ladies' bathroom to confuse men when word gets out. You can use any of the former ones and the bartenders will jump into action. Generally they find a way to get you away from that person, whether it be a phone call or they need to show you something. Once you're out of eyesight they whisk you away to the opposite floor of the place. Bar is on the bottom, club is on the top, and keep the date occupied until you're gone. If he gets away from his company they radio that the drink got spilled and every bouncer abandons their post to try and keep him away from you. They escort you out the back door into a waiting cab. They pay the cabbie to take you home and make sure you're not followed. When you get home they ask that you flick your front porch lights on and off and call the club to let them know you're safe. They also save the security cameras from that day in case you have need of it at a later date. I never used their service because my friends were the bouncers and usually intervened before I needed to say anything. My friends did know and they said it was a relief to be in a bar that took women's safety so seriously, because in other bars in that town you could pay a bartender $20 to spike a drink. I learned the hard way to never accept a glass from someone who had their open palm over the glass. Some people really suck. Recently happened to me. I met up with an ex after roughly 5 years of not seeing him. He seemed way off when I arrived at the bar. Forgot his wallet. Not surprised. So I bought the round of beers but immediately closed the tab because I wasn't expecting to pay for him and didn't want him taking advantage. But when I excused myself to the restroom I was already regretting the evening. I left the restroom and he was standing outside the door. Every alarm in my body went off but I just acted annoyed and questioned him. He mumbled something and walked over to a pinball machine. Never played, just looked at it for a solid 10 minutes. Which gave me enough time to call my bartender over and ask girl to girl, "This dude's on drugs, right?" She agreed and asked me if I felt safe. I obviously didn't, so she let me exit through the back door and even got her bar back to walk me to my car. Not sure if anything would have happened but I'm really glad that she was so cool about it. TLDR. My ex showed up for drinks obviously out of his mind. The bartender helped me escape. I'm a bartender in a small town. Anytime a new woman comes into the bar I'll let her know that if she ever feels uncomfortable or needs anything to ask me to go out for a smoke with her. I've had plenty of people use it to get away from some just usual creeps. But nothing beats the night the guy asked this girl to go home with him. After she politely refused he grabbed her and called her a B. We already had our eye on this situation. My bouncer immediately came out of nowhere and tasted this drunk butthole. Edit. Dazed. I had a creep corner me in a bar once and tried to stroke my thigh. A dude I've never met before came up and said, "Hey sis, I've been looking all over for you," and he put his arm around me and walked me out. Thank you so much, stranger. I was out at a pub on campus for a show and had been there previously in the day celebrating our last exam with some friends. Some guy who was sitting at a table next to us and trying to chat us up earlier was still there with his buddies and was drunker and braver, and of course he got me alone when my friend went to the bathroom. He wouldn't stop talking to me and getting in my face and yelling about himself, and when I excused myself to go to the bar, literally was like, "Okay, bye." He followed me to the bar and ordered the same thing as I did and offered to pay, and I said I was good and he did not stop talking. And I must have looked mad as frick because the bartender walked over and went, "Hey, you were here earlier, right? Buddy, give us a second, I need to speak with her about her tab." The guy leaves and the bartender tells me I looked distressed and asked if everything was okay. I told him I was fine, but this guy was in my personal space and not leaving. So he said if he doesn't stop that I should come back and order a whiskey lemon and security would be notified. And he would walk me back to my car if I needed it. We ended up moving tables and I think he got too drunk to stand up and left not too long after that, but I was so relieved to know the bartender was watching out. I'm not one for confrontation and it just feels so much safer to be able to duck out with someone having my back. Not exactly a Safeword drink, but some strip clubs will have an alcohol-free code phrase for the dancers that don't want to get hammered and don't want to refuse drinks. For example, with an extra lime wedge, the guy still gets charged for a normal drink, so he's none the wiser. Not exactly the question, but where I live we once had an epidemic of pickup artists on every corner. There was this one guy who was incredibly persistent and wouldn't take no for an answer. When I told him I had a boyfriend, he wouldn't let me leave and said I had to give him one of my friend's number. Thank God a kind girl noticed what was happening and came up to us while saying, "Well, there you are. We have been looking for you. Come on, let's go, the show is going to start." She got me away from him and I was so thankful. To anyone out there, please don't ever do it. It's such repulsive and scary behavior. I swear 20% of the all drunk girls are automatic best friends are actually all drunk girls are trying to protect each other from creeps. You have been visited by the doggo beer master. Comment delicious so you always have beer in your life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.